Well, hi everyone, and welcome to another day here in Bronie's World. Actually, this is the first one for December 2024, so hence a bit of Christmas going on here. It's in Australia, it's the 3rd of December 2024, actually, and we are so privileged to have, for the second week in a row, seems he missed some, my favorite pharmacist in the world and a very dear friend, all the way from Colorado, the awesome and amazing pharmacist Ben. And today we're having Ben talk on the subject of selenium. Now, we hear lots of different things about selenium. Some hate it, some don't understand it enough to realize how important it is for us. And the difference between the seleniums, like there's crushed rock selenium, which is a no-no, or there's ours, which is plant-based. So with no further ado, I'm going to hand it over to you, Ben, to give us the ins and outs of selenium and the haves and have-nots and all that, because you're just good at it.
You said something really interesting just now, and that's the idea that a plant-derived mineral is going to have different properties than an ordinary mineral in terms of toxicity. Anyway, the plant-derived minerals are protected. That being said, if you really want to get powerful selenium effects, you don't use a plant-derived selenium. You use a selenium chelate or selenium mineral, and that's what the selenium that we have is. Now, there's plant-derived selenium in all the plant-derived mineral products, but the selenium itself, the selenium supplement, is straight selenium. Plant-derived minerals are protected, and that's why they're not toxic, and you can take as many of them, as much of them as you want, but they're very trace amounts. So they're more about frequencies and energies than they are about providing the appropriate amounts, the nutritionally appropriate amounts of the minerals. So for selenium, there's plant-derived selenium in all the plant-derived products. The selenium capsules that we sell at Longevity, that's selenium. That's not plant-derived selenium. That's a selenium salt. Okay. Now, selenium is a very fascinating element. All these nutritional minerals that we call minerals are really elements on the periodic table. And you've seen this thing called the periodic table. Selenium is number 34 on the periodic table. It's an atom or an element. And it's interesting for a lot of reasons. First of all, it is one of those elements that you don't want to take a lot of. And in fact, if you look at the doses on selenium, you'll see it's one of the few, it's one of the elements that are dosed in micrograms. So the capsules that we sell are 100 micrograms. It's 1,000th of a milligram, which itself is 1,000th of a gram. So you're talking about 1,000th of a 1,000th of a gram, which is 1,000,000th of a gram. It's very tiny amounts. 100 micrograms is the size of the capsule. Doc takes 7 or 8 of them. So he takes about 700. This I haven't talked to him about in a while, but I talked to him a few years ago about it. He says he takes 700 or 800 micrograms. Personally, I take 400 to 600 micrograms. But you don't want to take more than, say, a milligram, which is 1,000 micrograms.
So in our capsule form, that would be how many?
That'd be 10 capsules, 10 100 microgram capsules.
So you wouldn't
don't want to take more than 10 a day. They recommend 2 or 3 a day. Doc, like I said, takes 6 or 7. Last I spoke with him, I take 4 to 6 a day, depending. But you don't want to take more than 10 a day. Not that anybody would take more than 10 a day, but it's just important to understand that selenium is one of those elements on the periodic table that if you take too much, you can run into some toxicity. So I'm just pointing that out, not saying that anybody's going to do that, but it needs to be said. Selenium's got some really, really interesting properties. My favorite property of selenium is that it helps balance out estrogen, particularly for folks who are dealing with breast cancer or female cancers. Selenium can reduce the incidences of breast tumors, mammary tumors. It actually potentiates some of the estrogen blocking properties of estrogen drugs like tamoxifen. So it's an important nutrient for women to use who are dealing with the symptoms of excess estrogen. We talked about some of the symptoms of excess estrogen, which are really based on more on detoxification problems, elimination problems, as well as something called xenoestrogens, which are foreign estrogens that are found in plastics and medications and cosmetics and such. So selenium can be protective against all of those problems. Women who have endometriosis, fibromyalgia, weight issues, thyroid problems, autoimmune issues, oftentimes are dealing with excess estrogen. Selenium can be important for balancing that out or for protecting the body from excess estrogen. It's known as an estrogen disruptor, we'll say. And that's a really interesting property. There's not a lot of nutrients that can make that claim. So for women who have been told they have either estrogen-dependent cancers or are dealing with estrogen health issues, selenium can be a very important supplement for them. Selenium is also important along the same lines for the thyroid. Selenium plays a role in the health of the thyroid for women who are hypothyroid, for anybody, not women, although mostly women have hypothyroidism. Selenium plays a really important role in thyroid health. The thyroid gland itself actually has the highest concentration of selenium per gram of tissue than any other gland in the body or organ in the body, with the exception maybe of the liver and the kidneys, which also contain a lot of selenium. Selenium is a component of as I said, it's important for the thyroid. It's a component of enzymes that activate thyroid hormones. Selenium deficiency is associated with Graves' disease, which is autoimmune hyperthyroidism as opposed to hypothyroidism, as well as goiter. Selenium supplementation can help folks who are dealing with thyroid antibodies, who have autoimmune disease to the thyroid, Hashimoto's antibodies. I would recommend the selenium supplement for anybody who's dealing with hypothyroidism, or selenium supplement, maybe 200 or 300 micrograms a day. Dr. Wallach is famous for talking about what he calls Wallach's cardiomyopathy, also known as Keyson's disease. This is found in animals and people who are deficient in selenium. It was first noticed in sheep that were deficient in selenium, or who were grazing on selenium deficient grass or soil that the grass was grown in that was selenium deficient. And the more they studied it, the more they realized that the selenium deficiency was the cause of this cardiomyopathy, this heart disease. So selenium can also be helpful for folks who are dealing with heart disease. This particular selenium deficiency cardiomyopathy, which is called Keyson's disease, is also alternatively called Wallach's cardiomyopathy, after Dr. Wallach. I don't know if you've heard him talk about it, heard him talk about that. Selenium also plays a role in the health of the muscle, health of the brain, also important for mood issues and bipolar issues, or people have depression, or people have issues with emotional health, we'll say, as opposed to mental health, not necessarily organic mental health issues, but emotional health issues. Selenium is also important for the body's most important detoxifier. Do you know what the body's most important detoxifier is, Bronie? Put you on the spot.
You're going to tell me.
It's called glutathione. Have you heard of that? Have you heard of glutathione? Yeah. Selenium and glutathione are both antioxidants. They both support antioxidant defenses. And it turns out that selenium is a cofactor for glutathione activity. It's important for the activity of glutathione. It's a component of proteins called selenoproteins, which are protective. These are proteins that have a little chunk of selenium that are important for the immune system, for brain health, cognitive functioning, as well as I mentioned, protection from cardiovascular disease and protection from cancers. Selenium deficiency is associated with immune issues. We recommend selenium for people who are having cold sores or who have chronic viral infections. Cold sores are viral infection. And selenium's antioxidant properties can help protect cells from free radicals. This can also reduce inflammation for folks who have inflammatory issues. The antioxidant effects also help the brain. Selenium is important for fertility, for reproductive issues, also important for DNA synthesis, for the production of DNA, which also plays a role, obviously, in reproductive health. And then selenium also plays a role in, as I mentioned earlier, the function of muscle. This is where heart muscle, especially, this is where cardiomyopathy of the heart, or cardiomyopathy associated with selenium deficiency comes in, because of selenium's very important role for the heart. And then selenium also plays a role in white blood cell functioning for the immune system, helps the body fight infections, as well as fighting bacterial-based illnesses or viral illnesses. Folks who are worried about the latest viral infection that everybody's talking about, selenium supplementation is a must. In fact, selenium supplementation is a must for everybody. I personally recommend at least 300 or 400 micrograms a day. Like I say, I take 400 to 600 micrograms a day, although I will miss a day periodically. Selenium is found in high protein foods, meats especially. Selenium is bound up with an amino acid called methionine. And also there's some other forms of selenium that are found in high protein foods, particularly meat. Of course, meat that is grown on selenium competent soil, selenium deficient soil, meat that, or animals that are feeding on selenium deficient soils won't have selenium. But selenium is typically found in high protein foods, also fish and seafood, which is interesting because selenium has some chelating properties that will actually protect people from mercury, which is found in fish. You know, a lot of people are talking about how you don't want to eat a lot of fish because there's mercury. Well, it turns out that seafood and fish are also good sources of selenium, which actually is protective against mercury toxicity. It's kind of interesting how nature combines the two, the toxin mercury with selenium as well as sulfur, which is also found in meats. And both of those, both selenium and sulfur, will help protect the body from the mercury that's found in seafood. The most famous source of selenium, food source of selenium, is Brazil nuts, which you may have heard. One Brazil nut famously has, I think, 200 micrograms of selenium in it. That's two selenium capsules in Brazil nuts. Unfortunately, and this is a point Dr. Wallach makes, and it's very accurate. When we try to get our nutrients, our minerals, particularly from foods, and you read about how selenium has seafood has such and such amount of selenium, or meat has such and such a amount of arginine, or whatever it is, or not arginine, but zinc, we'll say, minerals. All of that depends on the soil that the Brazil nuts or the fruits or the meats have been feeding off of or have been grown in. So just because a Brazil nut is supposed to have 100 to 200 micrograms of selenium, and it doesn't mean it does. If it was the Brazil nut tree, I think Brazil nuts grow on trees, bushes, whatever it is, doesn't have the selenium in the soil. So you can't really assume that a food has a particular amount of nutrients just because you read about it on the internet or in a book, because it all depends on the soil. And that's one of the reasons why supplementation is so important, particularly with minerals. You don't really know what you're getting in foods. And this is aside from the cooking and the processing and the storage and the picking and all those things, just the soil itself. We don't know how much selenium or how much zinc or how much magnesium or calcium, whatever the particular mineral is, in that particular soil that the Brazil nut bush was grown in, or the orange tree or the apple tree. You follow what I'm saying here? Which is why selenium supplementation is so important, given that it plays all of these roles for the immune system, for the brain, for the thyroid, for the heart, for estrogen, protection from estrogen, for protection against viral and bacterial infections. You can see all the places where selenium plays a role in the body. Even though you don't want to take too much, in my personal opinion, everybody should be supplementing with at least 200 micrograms, ideally 400 micrograms of selenium a day, in addition to foods that they may be eating like eggs and meat and fish and high protein foods that should contain selenium. Selenium being linked with protein. That's why it's going to be found in high protein foods, as well as Brazil nuts. Any questions?
Well, we do have questions, and I'm going to go to the questions that have been sent to me first. And
about selenium?
They aren't about selenium, but I suppose we should ask if anyone out there's got a question on selenium first. Does someone have a question on selenium?
I should also, let me just mention this also. If for people who were to take too much selenium, it's not like they would die. It's not like it would be fatal to them, but things like hair loss, nail brittleness, broken nails, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, those can happen if you do take a ridiculous amount of selenium, like you take 10 capsules a day or 12 capsules a day. But selenium is pretty much, it's recognized as being important enough that it's found in most multivitamin supplements, as well as infant formulas. Baby formulas will have selenium in them as well.
It's interesting you say that. Getting back to the selenium, my eldest sister, who she was told to take selenium, she had cancer somewhere. She had some issue with a leg, and but
they recommended selenium for it. They recommended selenium.
Yeah, well, it was one that I don't know who recommended, a naturopath, I think. And this is out west anyway. And this is before she knew what I did. And she just bought it off the shelf. And she took all the selenium, and this her GP told her to get off it because it was killing her.
Told her?
To
Oh, her
get off it.
GP? Oh,
Yeah,
because it was killing her.
killing her.
How much was she
I have
taking?
no idea, and I cannot convince her that, well, that's, yes, okay, if you just buy a cheap one off the supermarket shelf, it's not going to be the best thing for you. I have not been able to convince her that there is a difference between seleniums and that ours would not cause that issue. But no, she just so there's a lot of people out there that have that myth that selenium is bad.
Well, that's because it's one of the few elements, well, I shouldn't say it. If you take too many of a lot of transition elements, which are these elements that are in the middle of the periodic table that are very flexible. They call them transition elements because they bounce around a lot. Selenium, iron, chromium, copper. They have a double-edged sword. They're like a double-edged sword. They have a dark side, and you can take too much selenium, as I mentioned.
Yeah. Well, so, she never told me how much she took. She just said, "Oh, I just got it from the supermarket."
She just what?
She just got it from the supermarket, and I remember Doc saying that's why he would not tell people what it is, because when he would tell them,
he doesn't want them taking
buy the cheap stuff, and it did cause issues. So anyway, but interesting. Just thought I'd add that there.
Well, the best source of selenium is going to be, believe it or not, yeast, and this is one of the places where selenium supplements come from. Is yeast-derived selenium. Yeast will actually make selenium. And yeast-derived selenium is actually a pretty good source of selenium. Selenomethionine is another good source of selenium. Selenocysteine is a source of selenium. I'm sorry, you'll see selenomethionine as a form of selenium in supplements. So yeah, if you use the longevity selenium, you're going to be guaranteed that you're going to get a good source of selenium. And then of course, there's also eggs and Brazil nuts and high protein foods. Mushrooms are also good sources of selenium too.
We have lots of mushrooms in everything. Now, Grant, wake up.
Yeah, I'm here.
Did I put Grant to sleep?
No, I'm awake.
He takes notes. He's a very good note taker, Ben.
Oh, okay, got you.
Yeah. I just wanted to clarify, Ben. In animals, a selenium deficiency is called white muscle disease.
A white muscle disease, yes, because selenium plays a role. What did you say? White muscle disease is what you said.
White muscle disease. Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Selenium plays an important role in muscle health.
Yeah.
In fact, muscle weakness is one of the signs of selenium deficiency.
And vets will traditionally just inject them with selenium and get rid of the problem.
Say that again?
Well, vets inject a sheep or a lamb with selenium and get rid of the problem.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. And that's for animals that are grazing on soils that
that's
don't
deficient.
That's deficient, exactly.
Yeah.
And would you suggest, Ben, and just my brain's having a blank moment here, what about people who are deficient in iron? Would selenium be good to help them with that?
No, there's no real. If you're deficient in iron, you need iron, not selenium.
Yeah, just check. I know Doc talked about different combinations of things.
Selenium, I mean, they're both important, and you should take them both. But if you have an iron deficiency, you want iron. If you have a selenium deficiency, you need selenium. They play different roles in the body. Iron's important for carrying oxygen. The selenium doesn't play that role, and selenium is very important for the immune system.
It's just something that popped in my head as I was listening.
You need them both. You can't. They're not like interchangeable.
Will a medical doctor ever ask whether you're check for selenium deficiency?
No, that's not. That's a great question, actually. We think medical doctors are supposed to take care of our health. That's not true. They never said, they may have said that, but they never actually do that. They don't take care of our health. They take care of our symptoms. So if you have high blood pressure, nobody's going to be looking for your B vitamin levels. They're just going to give you a drug to lower your blood pressure. If you have
Mm.
acne, nobody's going to be looking for your zinc levels. They're just going to give you an antibiotic to kill your acne bacteria. And if you have muscle problems or you have thyroid issues, they're not going to look for your selenium levels. They're just going to give you synthroid or levothyroxine thyroid hormone, or maybe they'll give you some kind of anti-inflammatory for your muscle pain. They're not. That's not their job. We don't want to blame doctors for doing their job or for not doing the job we think they should be doing. You know what I'm saying? We give them this responsibility that they don't have, that they haven't trained for. And that's to take care of our overall health. And this is very important for you guys in Australia to understand, because in Australia, the medical model owns health via the government. The medical model and the government own it. So we just assume if we're sick, we're going to go to the doctor. We don't have that as much here. That's still a pretty common myth here, and a way of operating here. If we're sick, we go to the doctor, but nothing like in Australia or Canada or Europe, where they have free medical care. So it's really incumbent upon us as patients, number one, to realize that it's not the doctor's job to take care of your nutrition. And number two, to recognize that there is more often than not a nutritional element that can be leveraged or manipulated in order to get healthy, but you can't do it with a doctor. It's not their job to do it. It's not in their wheelhouse. Their job is their job should be to repair you when you break a bone, or you get into, God forbid, a meteor hits you on the head, or you get into a car accident, you fall off your bike, or whatever it is. You don't need vitamin C to stitch up your bones. You need surgery. And that's their job, and that's good. That's great. We need that. We live in a world where accidents happen, and that should be the doctor's job. But we have given them a role by abdicating responsibility for ourselves. We're not taking responsibility for ourselves. And that is present company excluded because you're on this call, but the vast majority of beautiful Australians and New Zealanders and Canadians and Europeans and even Americans feel like, hey, I got high blood pressure. I'm just going to go to the doctor and get a high blood pressure pill. Not I'm going to lay off the French fries, or I'm going to eat differently, or I'm going to start supplementing, or get on the Mighty Nine. That doesn't cross their minds, most people's minds. And you know what? We pay the price for it because we've got more doctors than ever in this country, in your country, all over the world. We got more doctors per capita than any other cultures in the history of mankind. And at the same time, we're the fattest, we're the sickest, we're the most cancer-ridden, we have the most chronic disease, all of it. It's hidden in plain sight. The failure of the medical model to address our real health challenges, 80, 90% of our health challenges, which is chronic degenerative disease, is right there. It's hidden. It's right in our faces. How can you miss it? But yet, if you're sick, you're going to go to the doctor. What's the definition of insanity, Bronwyn?
Can't do a doctor.
What's the definition? Anybody know?
Go on, Grant. You're dying to say.
It's doing the same thing over and over and expecting
and expecting a different result.
results.
Yeah, I couldn't get my mic on.
There's no doctor on the planet that ever took care of anybody's multiple sclerosis or psoriasis or heart disease, except for the symptoms. And that's what they do. They mask the symptoms. They hide the symptoms. And that's why, I tell this little joke, and it's kind of serious. It's not a joke, but it sounds funny. To doctor is not a good thing. If you go to court or you go to the IRS, the government, to doctor is to fake something out. When you doctor something, you're committing a fraud. And so what a doctor does is he makes it look like you're healthy because they lowered this level, or they raised that level, or they suppressed this symptom, or they got rid of that pain. But they're not going to fix your kidneys except for taking it out, or your thyroid, or your any other gland. That's not their job. They're not bad people. We in longevity sometimes, we pick on, and not just longevity, a lot of people pick on doctors. It's very easy to pick on doctors because of their, well-known record of failure when it comes to treating chronic degenerative disease. But I have friends who are doctors, and they are good people. They're beautiful people for the most part. There's exceptions, but for the most part, they're really good people. And they want to make a difference, and they want to help their fellow man. And that's a laudable venture. That's something that we should be very grateful for, that we have them. It's our fault that we're asking them to do something that they're not skilled to do. And if you go to I know I've said this before, but I'll say it again because it's very important. If you go to You have the best carpenter in the world who makes the best furniture, the best cabinets, you know, and you ask him to go fix your transmission. He's going to take a hammer and nail, and he's going to try to hammer and nail your engine. He's going to destroy it. You say, I'm a carpenter. That's what I do. I got a hammer and nail. What'd you ask me to fix your engine for? So if you go to a doctor to fix your heart disease or your diabetes, he's going to take a hammer and nail, i.e. a drug or a scalpel or an electrocuting device, and he's going to use his tools to do it. And then we're going to blame him. It's not his fault. It's our fault. Present company excluded. You're on this call. You guys are beautiful. You want to learn how this is done. But most of the people don't want to. Now, I find more and more it's being recognized that the medical model doesn't have the tools that are appropriate for dealing with most of what ails us. And that's why we're so fortunate to be in this position that we're in, of being able to provide people with real solutions, nutritional solutions, healthy solutions that don't doctor, that don't commit a fraud, but literally reverse the disease process. It's not just nutrition. There's, as I've said many times, spiritual, mental, emotional, physical. Nutritional supplements are important. Food's important. Exercise is important. Sleep is important. Breathing and oxygenation is important, as are mental and emotional strategies. Kindness, love, the virtues, forgiveness, spirituality, connecting with a higher force. These are all things that we got to employ. We got to approach it from multiple levels. You know, you guys know I'm in the skincare business. One of my strategies for formulating skincare products is I'm looking to approach wrinkles or dark spots or acne blemishes or psoriatic plaques from multiple approaches, from multiple levels in one product. So in one of my formulations, you'll find retinol and vitamin C and salicylic acid and mandelic acid to deal with skin lightening. And you don't need to know all the specifics here, but we're trying to approach it from different angles. It's true about all health issues. You want to approach it from different angles. So if you have diabetes, which is the second point on the triangle of disease, and a precursor to pretty much every single chronic degenerative disease, you approach it with food, you approach it with water, you approach it with supplements, you approach it with exercise, you approach it with kindness and love. You know, it's very interesting how there's a sweetness element to diabetes. And so you want to approach it from a psychological or emotional perspective and a mental perspective, as well as always to connect up with God. You know, and I don't want to proselytize here. I happen to be a spiritual person, but I don't want to make that about this. But here's the thing. When we're born, they say we're born into sin. Have you heard this? I don't know if they say this.
Yeah.
If you've heard this idea, you're born into sin, right? What does that really mean? Well, sin is the Latin word for separation. Sin is when we feel separated. So when we're born, we go from a state of unity in the womb, where we have everything. We come out, and all of a sudden, we're alone. All of a sudden, it's us and the world. All of a sudden, we're separated. All of a sudden, we're in sin. This is what original sin is. You're born separated. What does this do? Well, when you're separated, disconnected in sin, you're activating the fear response. Because while there's thousands of different phobias, there's fear of heights and fear of crowds and fear of peanut butter getting stuck in the roof of your mouth, fear of spiders, fear of snakes. That's literally a fear. There's so many different fears and phobias. There's really one fear. And that's the fear of the unknown. And as soon as you're born into sin, born separated, everything's the unknown. You're automatically in fear mode. Automatically. Why do you think babies cry? And then, of course, we slap them on top of that after they come out, right? So they're in fear mode. Everybody is living their life in fear mode unless they're connected to spirit, connected to God. That's why we get saved. That's what it means to be saved. You're not in fear mode anymore because you know you're connected. As soon as you're in fear mode, you activate what's called, and you know, I know you guys know this, the sympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system is your fear nervous system. Guess what it does? It shuts down the immune system. It shuts down growth and repair. It shuts down the thyroid. It shuts down the digestive system. It shuts down the body's immune system. The sympathetic nervous system, or an activated sympathetic nervous system, is behind all health challenges. The sympathetic nervous system is the fear nervous system. The parasympathetic nervous system is the love nervous system. The parasympathetic nervous system activates growth. It activates repair. It activates fertility and creativity and the thyroid and the digestive system and lowers the blood pressure and makes the heart stronger. It does all the good stuff. All the good stuff is in the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the love nervous system. It's the nervous system that's activated when we feel connected, when we feel, when we're in love, when we're connected to God, when whatever. This is where spirituality comes in, when we feel one with everything. And indeed, we are one with everything. There's no disconnection. You guys are in Australia and I'm here, but you're in my brain and I'm in your brain and we're all mushed together. There's no real separation. It's all an illusion. There's no separation. There's no sin. Sin's a lie. That's why Satan, and I don't want to be, I know I'm talking a lot of religion here, but it's really kind of an interesting crossover. Satan's the father of lies. The lie is that we're separated and we need to be scared and we need to be in fear mode. So there's only two emotions, fundamentally, fear and love. And those are reflected in the nervous system as the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. We're born into the sympathetic nervous system, but we can be born again into the parasympathetic nervous system. And that's what it means to be saved. See, being saved means being safe. The parasympathetic nervous system is your safety nervous system because now we're together. Now we're connected. Now everything's known. There's no more unknown. And this is the cross. I didn't mean to be all proselytizing here, but this is the connection between health and spirituality. And at the end of the day, health and holy come from the same word. In fact, health means whole, which means connected. One thing. Everything wants us fragmented, divided. The world is fragmenting us and dividing us everywhere into countries and into religions and into families and into races and all the different ways we're divided. Of course, we're going to be sick. Of course, we're going to be sympathetic. Of course, we're going to be running in fear mode. So to be healthy is to be whole, holy, if you will. And that means to be parasympathetic. And anything you could do to activate the parasympathetic, the love nervous system, is going to be in your health interest. And that's why nutritional supplementation and nutrients are so important, because under conditions of nutrient deficiency, the body goes into fear. It's starving. Under conditions of oxygen deficiency, the body goes into fear. It's starving. Under conditions of love deficiency, disconnection, we go into sympathetic nervous system. You can actually, little kids who are not nurtured suffer something called failure to thrive.
Yeah.
If the kids aren't pet and they're not connected and they're not loved and they're not nurtured, they'll literally suffer failure to thrive. They do these horrible experiments on monkeys, and they take the monkey away from the mother and they put it in a cage all by itself, and the monkey suffers failure to thrive and doesn't grow, and eventually it dies. So we're here to recognize our connection. The word religion means re-lig. Lig means to connect, like a ligament. Re-lig, religion means to reconnect. So even true religion means to come back together, to come out of the sense of separation into the sense of holiness. And that's all the proselytizing I'm going to do for preaching.
And we're going to go to Diane now because she has a question. So Diane, do you want to unmute and ask your question before Ben goes off on the more prophesying? Can you unmute, Diane? No, she's struggling to unmute. Okay, let me see if there. Did that button help you?
Yep, that's it. Got it. Okay, well, I have to talk about doctors. I hope I'm doing the right thing, Ben, here. I've got a friend who's a push bike rider and does kilometers, heaps. Now, there's tendons that have disconnected in the ankle. Okay. Now, the operable procedure is to put there's two tendons apparently going back, or what he's going to do in that ankle.
He tore some tendons off his ankle.
Yes. And then he's going to put them back on somehow. I don't know what the procedure.
Surgery for that, yes.
What I'd like to be able to do is, he's very anti taking supplements, and I'm.
Well, here's a couple things.
Me, and I'm saying, well, let's help.
Let me address this for everybody. Okay, because there's two major points here. First of all, as I said earlier, there's a place for doctors, and that's when you need to repair something, and that's what this guy needs. However, nutrition on the good side, on the positive side and on the negative side, can have a huge impact on the healing process. Surgery is important, but the healing process will determine how effective the surgical procedure will be. Just because you have a surgery doesn't mean you're out of the woods. The body has to heal correctly. So healing is very important, and that involves all the things we talked about, but specifically for nutrition, it involves two directions. Number one, it means from the negative direction, avoiding things, avoiding anything that's going to cause inflammation, such as problem foods, if he has a food problem, such as sugar, if he has a sugar problem, or any sugar will do it. Sugar is very pro-inflammatory, and processed food in general is very pro-inflammatory. So working on the negative side of things, avoiding the things that will slow down the healing process is very important. But there's tons you can do in fact, this is where longevity really excels, is in repairing post-surgery. And so for this, and I'll address this guy's problems, his reluctance here in a moment, but it's unfortunate because post-surgery is the perfect time for supplementation. Because when the body's injured or when it's been working out and exercising, it's in a state of maximum absorption. It will make the best use of the nutrients. He will get after his surgical procedure, he'll make better use of the nutrients than I will, or than you will. I don't know you, but nor a regular person, because he's in a deficient state. So it's very unfortunate that he's going to say that, because this is the perfect time for him to do the glucogel caps, for him to do the collagen peptides, for him to do the ultimate EFAs. In fact, the whole healthy bone and joint pack would be important for him to do the MSM, ultimate MSM, for him to do the CFX or the ultimate C, all of the things he can do. The supplements, his body will suck them up like a dry sponge sucks up water. So if he's reluctant to do it, that's on him, and it's unfortunate. But for everybody out there listening, that's the perfect time. That's the best time to do supplements is after surgery or after an injury. And by the way, digestive enzymes can be incredibly valuable. The ultimate enzymes can be incredibly valuable for accelerating healing, taken pre and post. And by the way, you want to take for people going in surgery, you want to load up 2 weeks, 3 weeks, load up, because as soon as they make the cut, that's when the healing begins. And you want to make sure that healing ensues immediately and effectively. And so that you want to have sulfur in the vicinity or in the bloodstream or in the tissues. You want to have vitamin C. You want to have zinc. You want to have collagen peptides. You want to have fats, essential fats, all of it, vitamin A, all of it. So pre-surgical procedures is the ideal time, and of course post-surgical as well. But yeah, and then you said something else that's interesting, and I think this bears a discussion, especially for us in longevity. We are in a very delicate position of being in a business, of being business people and being health people. And so we oftentimes have to be very careful of this, because oftentimes we will be such good business people that we will not see people as necessarily as people who need health intervention, but as customers. And that can create some resistance. And so you run into people who say, they see you as selling them something. They're skeptical, and you're telling them don't be skeptical, and they don't trust you. And it's not just you, it's me, it's a lot of people. They're skeptical. Those are not our customers. Those are not ours. And if you try to make them your customer, it's like the old saying, you can't, and I don't mean to insult anybody here, but this is just a saying, you can't teach a pig to sing. It's not going to work, and you're only going to piss off the pig. And I don't mean to, and I don't mean to insult anybody or call them. That's just the saying. I don't know another way to say it. But the point is you don't go to people who don't want you. As a single guy for many years, I discovered a strategy for never getting rejected. For you guys out there who are single, or ladies who are single, if the big fear is to get rejected. Especially with guys, you don't want to get rejected. There's a lot of beautiful ladies out there that are single because guys don't want to approach them because they're afraid of getting rejected. So I came up with a strategy of never getting rejected. You know what it was? I would only ask people out who liked me. If they liked me, they weren't going to reject me. So I didn't ask people out if they didn't like me. I waited for somebody to like me, and then I would ask them out. I never got rejected. It's the same with sales. You only go to people who like you, who want you, who are interested. If you try to go to somebody and they're reluctant, they're just going to be pissed. It's not going to work, and they're going to be pissed off, understandably. You know, like that. You know, I know I've told this before, but it's really instructive and illustrative of what we're talking about. There's this old Bugs Bunny cartoon where Bugs Bunny's trying to walk the little old lady across the street, and she's hitting him with the umbrella while he's walking her across. She doesn't want to be walked across the street, and he's trying to help her across the street. Don't help anybody across the street who doesn't want to be helped. They're going to hit you with your umbrella, with their umbrella. So you know, we got to let people be. And, you know, the sun shines on everybody. Jesus loves everybody. There's no, they don't want it. That's on them. Have a nice life. You know, enjoy your life. But there's so many people who need us and want us and are dying to be told this information, especially in your country, especially in Australia and New Zealand, where there's such a dearth of a shortage of information, of quality information, because the medical model owns lock, stock, and barrel health in countries where there's free medical care for everybody. And I don't want to sound like we're that much different here, because we're not, but we're a little bit different, although it's heading that way. The whole world is heading that way.
Mm-hmm. Can I just ask, the collagen peptide, I think there's a joint one as well.
Yes, absolutely. Collagen peptides, I think we have a collagen powder too. Collagen peptides are like bigger chunks of collagen. The collagen powder, gelatin powder is great. Bone broth is great. Whey protein TMR shake is great. All these buildings, this is all not just for your friend, but anybody who's pre-surgery and post-surgery.
Yes.
Okay.
Especially the EFAs, by the way.
We do have
especially things that reduce inflammation. You know, after surgeries, about 80% of surgical procedures, patients will deal with something called adhesions. Have you heard this term? Adhesions. This is sticky tissue that interferes with the optimum functioning of organs and glands and tissues. So after a surgical repair, 8 out of 10 people are going to have these adhesions, which will disrupt organ function and muscle and tissue function, and muscle and ligament and tendon function as well, connective tissue function. And this is especially problematic for women who have pelvic surgeries and hysterectomies. They can disrupt the functioning of all of the appendix and the intestine and all the other systems, the pancreas, other systems that are in that area via these adhesions. The body is also an electrical system, and surgical procedures will disrupt electrical energy. So after surgeries, it's incredibly important to make sure inflammation is reduced as soon as possible. There's going to always be a certain amount of inflammation, but you want the tissue growing back healthy. Ultimate EFAs are nature's aspirin. They're nature's anti-inflammatories. So those are especially important.
Okay. He's been working around the medical system too, so, but I know them very well, and I'm working with his wife, so he's accepted the information.
Good luck with it. Good luck.
Oh,
I'll get there.
One step is all you can do.
Yeah,
right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Now, in the chat there, Ben, Michelle's asked a question. She can't come on live today. She is here, but she can't unmute because she's packing, and she has a friend whose mum has suffered a fall.
Has what? Suffered a fall.
Broken her hip on December 23rd. It must be a year ago. Then a stroke in February 24th, starting December 20, so a year ago. Yeah, and all within the last year.
How old?
Now her foot lacks circulation. Any suggestion? And the lady's 88 years of age.
Okay. All right. Well, God bless her. That's good long. It's a bunch of numbers, 88. So I hope I make it to 88. But you know, she can live a lot longer if she does everything correctly. Now, a couple things. What I find is people when they're 88 aren't going to change their life. So there's only so much you could do. Now she can do a lot, potentially, but most people are 88 don't want to do that. So we do what we can do. And you're going to hear me repeat myself over and over again. I mean, you know, I repeat myself over and over again because it's all the same basic things. So one of the leading causes of death in elderly folks is hip fractures. And it's very, very serious. Now, the fact that this woman also has heart problems, has stroke, that also, or circulatory problems, that also compounds the problem. So you got to do what you can do. if she just wants to take supplements, she can make a big difference with the Healthy Bone and Joint Pack and the collagen peptides. She make a huge difference with that if you can get her to do it. I begged my mom's 91. I begged her to take supplements for years. Finally, I got her on the Beyond Tangy Tangerine maybe 6 months ago, 8 months ago. And she's like a new person, just the Beyond Tangy Tangerine. I still can't get her to take anything else, but she does the Beyond Tangy Tangerine. And that alone will make a big difference. Remember, the more deficient we are in nutrients, the faster our body sucks up those nutrients, like a dry sponge sucks up more water than a wet sponge. So this is a woman who will benefit dramatically from whatever you can give her. I get her on the Healthy Bone and Joint Pack. I get her on the collagen peptides. I'd probably throw in the sweeties, and I'll tell you why. One of the things that causes heart disease, obviously, most of you guys know this, is sugar. Sweeties will help there. And one of the things that slows down the healing process is sugar. So the sweeties will help her body process sugar. Chances are, anyway, it sounds like she's got neuropathy. She probably has some blood sugar issues as well. So if she can take, she's willing to do everything, I would get her on the sweeties as well. And then the ultimate MSM. These are all things, I'm telling you all these things, presuming she's going to use them, whether she does or not, I don't know. At least the Healthy Bone and Joint Pack. And then if you want to throw in other things, the collagen peptides and the ultimate enzymes on an empty stomach are always good for any kind of inflammatory condition. I hope you understood. I don't want to fly past that. That's an important point. The ultimate enzymes taken on an empty stomach are very important for any kind of inflammatory process, whether you fall on your head and get a bruise or whether you just have surgery, whatever it is. Ultimate enzymes on an empty stomach will have very effective and very quick, relatively quick, anti-inflammatory effects, anti-pain effects as well. So those are always going to be helpful. Ultimate EFAs, as I mentioned earlier, nature's aspirin. They're natural aspirins. And that, by the way, applies to people taking a baby aspirin. They don't do that as much in this country, but they probably still do it over there, where they tell you to take a baby aspirin after you have a stroke. The ultimate EFAs are like a baby aspirin, except they have other benefits. Instead of side effects or toxicity like aspirin would have, which aspirin doesn't have a lot of toxicity, the ultimate EFAs give you multiple benefits.
Very good. Now listen here, Kevin. Kevin put his hand up. I don't know. Yes.
And let me throw one more thing before you get to Kevin. The Fucoid Z is also going to be effective for keeping your blood moving effectively. And if she has a stroke, that will improve the circulation of the blood and reduce the likelihood of another stroke or blood clots. Go ahead, Kevin.
Hey, I was just wondering, what's the mechanism in the enzymes to help reduce the inflammation? We use it for breaking food down, etc., and various other things. But what's the mechanism?
That's a good question. Inflammation it is partially the result of or is associated with proteins and fibers that surround the area to be protected. So you get punched in the eye, your body will secrete fluids and fibers, protein fibers, to protect that area around the eye. Make sense, Kevin? Kevin?
Yeah, he's still here.
The enzymes will break up those clogs, those inflammatory clogs, the beaver's dam. You follow?
Okay. Yeah, I do. Okay.
The inflammation is the end result. Is like a beaver's dam. The enzymes will roto-rooter through that beaver's dam.
Okay, cool. Now, people have mentioned it before that you have suggested that
that's the mechanism
on an empty tummy, and I didn't know the mechanism why.
That's the mechanism. Along the same lines, the blood becomes inflamed. People don't, I talk about dirty blood. You've heard me say dirty blood. What I really mean is inflamed blood. Mm-hmm. And the same anti-inflammatory benefits that bromelain and papain and these enzymes has for inflammatory plugs, if you will, around your sprained ankle or your black eye will benefit the blood as well. And so ultimate enzymes taken on an empty stomach will also support blood flow and improve the movement of blood and reduce the likelihood of strokes and clots. Kevin, you got a haircut. What the heck? Are you serious?
Now listen here, Ben. You're a bit slow. You said that when he did it 6 months ago.
No, but it's really short now. Holy cow, Kevin.
No, same. It's 6 months ago. Short. Exactly 6 months ago.
He's like a new man. That's crazy.
No, it's the 90 for life.
That's
Look,
what it
you
is.
look great. You look great. All right, what else?
And Karen's room has an excessive urination question. So Karen, do you want to unmute? I've spotlighted you there. Whether she's close.
Yes. You
Okay.
just stand. Yeah. Stand right there. Yeah. Ask the question.
Speak up, speak
So-
loud, speak clearly into the mic.
So, Dr. Ben, excessive urination
Yes.
in
Now,
pregnancy,
for man or woman, first of all, man or woman,
woman,
and is it excessive urge to urinate or actually excessive urine coming out?
urine coming out.
Okay. Well, that's not necessarily a bad thing, first of all, because you want urine coming out because urine's waste and you want everything being flushed out. But that being said, it can also be a sign of diabetes, which is blood sugar issues. That's the most important reasons why that happens. When the blood sugar goes up, is chronically elevated, the kidneys are going to try to pull out that excess sugar. Sugar is a very powerful chemical to the body, and the body does everything it can do to get rid of sugar. And one of the things that happens when the blood sugar goes up is the kidneys will try to remove it, and they'll pull water in to help flush, to help dilute the sugar and pull everything out. So blood sugar concerns can be an issue, especially considering everybody has blood sugar concerns. So is this an elderly person?
It's me.
Oh, it's you. Okay. So have you been diagnosed as a diabetic, or they tell you got blood
No,
sugar?
nothing. Look, I've been perfectly normal. I've been traveling a lot of lately. And when I came back and settled back into my routine, I just, there's just so much water coming out of me, and I'm not taking.
That's a good thing. Keep drinking water and keep it coming out. You're flushing yourself.
Because I don't, because now, you know,
Does urine
I'm
come out? Do you get? I don't mean to be graphic here, but I just want to understand what's happening. Does urine like flow out every time you go to the bathroom? You're like flowing.
Absolutely, and lots.
That's not a bad thing at all. Now you may be losing some nutrients because B vitamins, vitamin C, electrolytes, they come out in your urine. So you want to be careful that you're using your Beyond Tangerine, because you will become deficient. You will over time, if you don't replace those nutrients and you're urinating a lot, you'll become deficient in them. You want to make sure that you're replenishing your electrolytes and your water soluble vitamins.
What surprises me is because I don't want to be having to go to the toilet all the time, I'm not drinking as much as fluids.
That's not
and
good.
the amount that's coming out is
That's not good.
Wait,
Hang on. What do you mean you don't want to go to the toilet? It's inconvenient. You're too busy to go to the bathroom. What do you mean? I don't understand that.
if I'm in my home, yeah, I mean, that's easy. But if you're somewhere out and you need to go repetitively and
If you're traveling, maybe you want to be a little. Yeah, I understand. If urine is coming out, you're flowing out urine. It's either because your body is trying to dilute the sugar, diabetes, or you're drinking a lot of fluid. It's not a pathology, unless it's diabetes. It is a pathology if it's diabetes or blood sugar problems or And let me just say it a better way. Diabetes is a name; it's an official diagnosis. But the real problem is dysglycemia, is elevated blood sugar. Now, I'm looking at you, and I can't really see you as that well because it's kind of blurry. But I'm guessing you're in your 60s, correct?
I'm 73.
Okay, you look great. So that's great. You look really good. You look very vital and very healthy. However, at the age of 73, it's not unusual to have dysglycemia, disturbances in blood sugar. It's very common. So it could be that. And that's I said, going to the bathroom, urinating a lot is not necessarily a bad thing. But if you have dysglycemia, that could be something to concern yourself about.
So what are the symptoms? What are the symptoms of dysglycemia? Because I don't
weight problems, blood pressure problems, liver issues, kidney issues, all of these. So it would be unusual, and you may be unusual because you look very, very vital, and that's unusual. It would be unusual for somebody not to have dysglycemia at the age of 73 in Australia, the United States, or Canada, or any of these Western countries. So that would be the only thing I would think of. Other than that, if you're urinating and stuff is coming out, it's not like you just have the urge. If you just have the urge, that's different. Or if you just have trickles coming out, that's different. But if you have a nice flow of urine, that is not a bad thing. I wouldn't worry about that.
Well, like I said, what surprised me is that there's no relation between the amount of fluid that I'm having and the amount of fluid that is coming out. And I'm concerned about that.
Not drying up, if that's what you're thinking.
Yeah, there has to be an imbalance somewhere, otherwise you'd be just shriveling up like an old prune. So
Yeah,
you can
you're
only
not
see
dry.
out what
It's not
goes in.
drying out. It has to be fluid coming in. There's no fluid that comes out without it first coming in, unless it's coming
Yeah.
out of your, like Kevin said, you'd be a prune, and you're not. You look great. You look really, really good. I'm
I
serious.
have been a few things changed in my life lately, and because I went traveling, I was walking about an average of 9 hours a day, in a lot of physical activity and everything. And my body is feeling great. I've lost weight and I feel fantastic.
Feel
But
great.
Maybe you should be
am I
if you had, there are some serious cancers of the kidneys or the bladder, that kind of thing. But yeah, I don't think you have, or kidney failure. I don't think you have any of that stuff. And then pregnancy is also another thing, but I don't think you're pregnant. So, but that can cause urine issues as well.
Yeah. Okay. No, so I don't have anything to worry about. Should I go and have
at all. Although you do want to replace your electrolytes and your water soluble vitamins because you're going to lose those.
Yeah.
Okay. And drink water. We should all be drinking so much more water. Listen, you will not believe what a liter of water first thing in the morning will do for you. It's unbelievable. And then in the middle of the day, another liter of water. You'll have so much energy. You won't even, you might want your coffee, but it won't have that same urgency. And in the middle of the day, if you do a liter of water, it'll fill you up. It's filling. A lot of times we think we're hungry, we just want water, or we're dehydrated. And we need a lot more water than we're getting. Good, clean water. But you all definitely want to replace your water-soluble nutrients, and the Beyond Tangy Tangerine is important.
While I'm at it, the one thing I'm also suffering is of reflux. And water affects my reflux.
I don't think that has to do with the water, with the urination, but reflux is definitely an issue. Nobody should have reflux, and that's an intestinal issue. And again, you're 73. It's not possible to live an Australian, New Zealand, Canadian, American life and be 73 and not have some things going on. Just because the air we breathe, the water we drink, the food we eat, the stress we're under. It's just the way it is. So reflux is a digestive issue. It's an intestinal issue largely. And it could also involve the stomach, because the stomach plays a role in intestinal health. The last thing you want to do, or the worst thing you can do, unless you absolutely have to, is acid suppressants like Prilosec or Nexium, or the drugs they have. Or that's what you don't want to do. You want to figure out why the reflux is happening, and that you'll find that there's specific foods that are causing it. And you can also use, believe it or not, stomach acid to suppress reflux. So apple cider vinegar or aloe vera, something that's acidic, can also have a suppressant effect. But that's something to watch out for, because if you have GERD, reflux disease, you likely have some malabsorption things happening, and that's something to really pay attention to. And like I said, it's very unusual for somebody to make it to 73 in our part of the world, United States or in Australia, and not have something like that going on. It's almost impossible.
Should I have hydrochloric acid?
I would, if you can find hydrochloric acid, or Ultimate Enzymes have hydrochloric acid, and you might want to try those.
Yeah, I've got some hydrochloric acid.
You might want to try those with your meals. Without acid, if you don't have enough acid, and reflux can be caused by not enough acid, you won't activate your enzymes. If you don't activate your enzymes, you're not going to be able to digest your food effectively, and you won't be able to absorb certain nutrients like the B vitamins and other minerals. So it's something to you definitely want to pay attention to.
Okay, good.
Okay?
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question on the same subject?
Yeah, so
Yes,
one more
go forward.
You can do it. No, I love Tangy Tangerine, but I've had to stop taking it because it's giving me urgency.
Urgency?
Yeah.
Like urination?
Yeah, there's no stuff. You've got to find a toilet immediately. So
Yeah.
it comes out of nowhere. And if I don't have it, as soon as I have Tangy.
Are you saying urination or bowel movements?
No, urination.
Urination. So, I'm not exactly sure what that would be, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. When you say urgency, like, are you saying like you have to immediately run to the bathroom kind of thing? Like there's a sense of urgency that way?
Yeah.
Try taking it with food. Try using your Beyond Tangy.
It's only when I have Tangy Tangerine. And as soon as I stop it, I don't have the
Good,
problem.
good question here, because I've had customers who've said the same thing. They
Try
see
taking your Beyond Tangy Tangerine with food instead of on an empty stomach.
Yeah, I tried it. I've tried it with food.
It still gave you that sense of urgency. That sounds to me like it might be a malabsorption problem. The minerals are coming; they're getting through without being absorbed, or the nutrients are getting through without being absorbed, and your body's flushing them out with the urine. I think it might be that. Try smaller doses. Did you try smaller doses?
Yeah, I've gone there too. I've tried.
How small a dose have you gone? How small a dose have you gone?
Like a teaspoon. Not even a teaspoon.
Try a quarter teaspoon.
Yeah, okay.
And then try half a teaspoon. See if you can find a sweet spot and see if it changes.
Okay.
Do a controlled experiment. So go from a teaspoon to a quarter teaspoonful and see if it makes a difference. If it doesn't make if it does make a difference, go up to half a teaspoonful. See where you're at. Just play with it. It sounds like there's an absorption issue, is what I would guess. And if it happened, Kevin, if you said,
I know they're sort of crystals, the little crystals that they're made of. I'm just wondering whether some of them mightn't dissolve, completely. So I've left it sitting.
I'm not quite hearing that. I heard something about crystals. Say that.
Yeah, the tangy tangerine is a crystalline sort of form.
It's not crystallized when you put it in water. The crystals dissolve. There's no crystals. It's in water.
Whether they all dissolve. That's the only thing. But perhaps
I'm not hearing, ma'am. I'm sorry. I'm not hearing you.
Okay. I'm wondering if you leave it soaked for longer, in water.
Oh no, it goes right in. You don't need to soak it. It goes right in. But I'd be curious if you could let me know or let somebody know if a smaller dose made a difference. And then also, you said you took it with food.
Yes, I've tried it.
Yeah, I would. If I had to guess, I would say there was some kind of absorption issue, and I would try the smaller doses. Okay. Beyond Tangy Tangerine, by the way, while I'm on the subject, is great to drink with meals. We tend to drink it first thing in the morning, or in the middle of the day, or before you go to bed. It's great as a beverage with meals. It'll help you digest your food, and it will get absorbed more effectively with food. And you'll eat less food. You'll be filled quicker. You'll be satisfied quicker. So it's a great beverage to do with meals. Bronie, I got a bolt here, my dear.
Yep, same here. So thank you everyone for coming. As I ask you all nicely here in Bronie's World to stay safe, stay informed, be empowered, but do not live in fear, my friends. And when you are giving your body what it needs, Selenium and all, then you too will be powerful, beautiful, brilliant, and most definitely very brave. And thank you, young Benjamin, for coming and joining us.
Bye.
Hopefully you'll have your own board night.
Ben, thank you.
Love you. Thank you so much.
Bye for now. Bye then.
Okay.